Hello. So I just came outside to start recording. There's some water in the background. You may hear that. It's 4:29. For some reason I felt guided to say the time. And right as I was about to push record, my finger was on the record button. Oh wow. There's a yellow butterfly flying over my head, and this tiny, I swear, this little baby feather, it's so tiny, just almost looked like it came from thin air, landed right in front of me, and I just put it on my finger. It's white. There's a little green, gray, and yellow. I don't know, it reminds me of peacock colors, like one of the green colors. And I know a lot of us associate feathers with the angelic realms or angelic consciousness. And so, yeah, it felt like a nice little omen to start this recording. And I'm going to try and take a photo of it because it's so tiny. One moment. Maybe I'll post it on my community page. Okay, so a few nights ago, maybe a week ago at this point, I genuinely don't remember. I was falling asleep. Well, I was laying in bed, and there's just, so much information coming through in so many forms, which is, on one side, just simply amazing to have so much information at our fingertips. It's funny, as I say that, the little feather is on my fingertip, and I just realized that. And then sometimes, if I'm being quite honest, it can be a little bit overwhelming to have so much information. And so I simply laid down and set the intention to remember when I wake up anything from dream time, what I like to call going into a dream temple, and what my highest timeline focus should be or could be right now. I always say, for the highest good of all realms and dimensions upon which I exist and the collectives upon which I'm connected. It's just something I like to say. Feel free to utilize that if that's something that feels good to you too. Or maybe you're already doing something like that. As soon as I said that, the wind just really picked up. Yeah, the air element is coming through really strongly. The Ketheric 7th auric layer, which is generally represented, from what I've seen, by a golden color. So we'll get more into that. Dream temples. I'm someone who's always been really tuned into my dreamscapes, my dreams, remembering my dreams since I was a little kid. And I remember at one point I heard the term collective dreaming. Maybe around 2018, I got really into Aboriginal research, if you will. And at the time, I was working with an amazing mentor who I just have so much respect for her, and she helped me so much. And she was bringing through soul roots. I don't think she called it that. That just is something I like to say. Soul roots, other lifetimes, etc. And I didn't tell her anything about the Aboriginal connection that I was really into. I think I had just ordered a didgeridoo, and I was just looking into different folklore about Aboriginal and Ayers Rock in Australia, etc. And something really interesting about the didgeridoo is that I remember women, at least at some time period, I don't know if it's still relevant for today, did not play the didgeridoo because it was said that they would become barren. And I remember that made me want to order the didgeridoo more. Like, when I read that, I was like, oh, come on. I mean, like, you know, it's one thing to respect tradition and everything like that, but yeah. Anyway, so I don't know, this could be coming up for someone right now, like superstition, breaking some sort of tradition. Of course, in a respectful way. I think there's ways to do it in a respectful manner. Yeah. So, at one point I came across collective dreaming and different indigenous tribes and tribal communities, different points in our time history where collective dreaming was essentially where people, if you're not familiar, would come together in some form of ceremony, collective intention, etc., and essentially like set intentions to meet in the dream space for a common goal of some sort. One particular story, I wish I remembered which culture or tribe. I honestly don't, but they needed assistance in some way, like, and they, I believe, were very remote, so they didn't have a way to like leave their island much, and so they all came together, essentially sending out like an SOS call, and someone on different side of the world somehow connected with them, you know, telepathically through dreams, etc., and felt the call to show up at this place. And yeah, there was something that she had. I can't remember the specifics. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, please feel free to comment and share. And whatever they were seeking assistance with, she was able to provide, and they came together. So that's just one example. But working with people over the last few years, I've noticed that a lot of the like aspects, perhaps subconscious things or other realm memories will come through in my dream working with different clients. And you know, I started calling it the dream temple because yeah, that's just what came through. So I was setting one up for myself and the next day when I woke up, I remembered I had like a flash come through, and I was in a van with quite a few people, and there was this reminds me. So I was talking about my mentor who I worked with a couple of years back, and when I was really into looking up Aboriginal culture, she brought, the wind just picked up again. I was about to say rainbow serpent. Someone here could feel connected to rainbow serpent. And anything, by the way, that I bring up and you're not familiar with, or you are, but you'd like to know more, please feel free to always, go deeper and do your own research. Or you can reach out to me if you feel so called. And so as I was in the session with her, she was like, oh, there's like an aspect of you that's coming forth as essentially like an Aboriginal shaman, like you had some sort of connections to Australia, etc., etc. And I was like, oh, well, that's funny you say that. And I told her that I was very much deep diving into that realm, if you will. So, something is coming up about, there's a few different things I'm being shown. Perhaps you are experiencing things like that seem coincidental. Each of you will be like in a different place with this. If you're just kind of starting on this, it might feel very coincidental, which, as you continue on, now your perspective might shift into more of synchronistic alignment. And if you're someone who's already been experiencing this for a long time, you may be stepping into a role where you're becoming like the space holder for others, to almost like, not in a like I'm saving people way, but just like I was talking about the Ketheric layer, your auric field, what they call like the 7th layer, that is actually connected to the mental plane and the spiritual aspect, is going through an expansion. So yeah, I think perspective shifts all around are happening. And when I talked about the feather almost appearing out of thin air, it reminded me of like an illusion, or like an optical illusion, like seeing things around you that maybe others don't see, and then like perhaps gaslighting yourself into thinking that you're just making something up, something like that. Yeah, so back to the dream. When I woke up, I had this flash where I was in this van, and there was a woman who was quite older than me in Earth linear years. And we were talking about tuning into the grids, the Earth grids. And like I said, there were other people in this van, and she was trying to guide me through this process. And I looked at her, and I remember like smiling at her and like saying thank you. And I kind of felt like I needed to follow my own, like I was getting a process like almost like downloaded into me, and I was like, I didn't want to be rude to her, but I also like felt like I wanted to follow my own path. And so I think I looked at her and just said like, okay, like thank you, can you give me one moment please? And I was guided to, and this is in the dream still, by the way, and I closed my eyes, and sort of I was directly receiving sun rays, and so I like let myself sit with the sun for a little bit and was like breathing in the light. And then I heard like flip your head down, and then I flipped my head down with my eyes closed, and it was like almost like this like a map kind of came up in my mind's eye. Everything was like dark, like black, almost like the void. And then there was this very almost like a blob on one side. And then as I like tuned in further, there was what looked like a double pointed or double terminated quartz, like a shape like that. If you're not familiar, you can look it up, but in the YouTube thumbnail, I sort of like tried to create the shape, so you can also look at that for the shape if you're not familiar. And it was very like there was like a knowing that it was very like a, if you will, multidimensional and like holographic, and it had its own like flow of energy. I've been seeing a lot of spirals, almost like as if it was a spiraling flow. And I just realized as I said that there's lights wrapped around a tree in front of me. The color blue could be significant, and it's like wrapped as almost in a spiral. So golden dragonflies can be that symbology. You may be noticing golden dragonflies. Really any kind of dragonflies, but fries. Ooh, maybe someone's eating fries. I didn't mean to say that. I love fries. Yeah, now I'm seeing like mustard. Maybe you're drawn to like yellowy foods, or like goldeny yellow color food, etc. You might like be feeling like you need more sun lately, or just wanting to be in the sunshine. Oh, birds are flying overhead. I think they want to come and say hello. Okay, so I sat with the stream and the last like week or so, and I've been looking into different things. And the first, when I looked at, I think I Googled just like double terminated quartz, and I just kind of like looked at an image and was letting like messages come through. And I heard Kathara grid. And so Kathara grid I know is referenced in Keylontic science, and they do this imagery of like a 12. It's kind of like in Kabbalah, the universal tree of life, which I believe has 10 spheres, and the Kathara grid, if I'm not mistaken, has 12. And I've heard a lot of people say that like the Kabbalah 10 grid is like, you know, it was like reversed and distorted because there's only 10 and really there's 12. You know, I invite you to just use your own discernment and filter through if that's something you feel called to look into. When I sort of have been going through that, it felt like to me, I'm thinking of occult obfuscation, and essentially occult meaning hidden. And when some of these teachings, if you will, start to emerge, there can be a lot of distortion around them in general. So sometimes revealing some of these teachings into the masses a bit too, like if the timing just isn't ready, like if it's not a mature enough consciousness collectively to handle it on a larger scale, it can become very distorted. So sometimes what I kind of feel into these things, and from what I've studied, if it kind of feels like there's, you know, collective streams of consciousness that will come through in accordance with what the collective might be ready for. So yes, it's one way to look at it, like there's a distortion in the 10 sphere grid, but away when I tune into my high self and my, if you want to call it like the guardians, there's different collectives that I tune into. I'm hearing the Elohim. It's sort of showing me like there's just almost like fragmented or pieces that will come through, and you know, once there's enough of the collective that sort of holds that purity and that template, then more will start to come to the surface. So like the Kathara grid has been talked about for years, you know, through people studying galactic science, and now it's starting to emerge more into the mainstream, because I think when I say mainstream, I mean those who are in these circles online sharing about some of these teachings. And so, yeah, it kind of feels like there's a more mature collective ready to sort of handle that. Does that mean that some people will not be? I mean, absolutely, but it seems like there's enough anchored. I'm seeing the number 33, so that could be something. I'm hearing 33%. Yeah. And of course, a lot of people connect the number 33 with the Ascended Master archetype. So if you're still listening to this, you may feel tuned into the idea of self-mastery, of working with Ascended Master archetypes. You may feel yourself like you've, this has been coming up a lot lately, like you're here sort of in a volunteer position, if you will. And there are a few other things that I wanted to talk about here on the YouTube portion, and then I think I'm working on trying to do a little bit of a visual. My friend just recommended a while ago this app called, I think it's called Xmind, and you can like creatively brainstorm your thoughts and ideas in like unique and different type of formats. So I might try and play with that and see if I can get a visual going. But yeah, I plan on going deeper on Patreon. But some of the things that were coming through to look into, Kathara, actually breaks down to the meaning of light, sound, and one. And so the Kathara grid, light, sound, one. I'm pausing because I also felt guided to look up the meaning of Kathara, and it's a Greek word with multiple meanings, including pure and clean. And I found that really interesting because I think the last recording that I released, I was talking a lot about purity and purification and like our relationship to what it means to purify. It also can mean an outer cloak or covering, a neckerchief for a woman. Interesting. Okay. 2s can be significant. You may be seeing a lot of 2s, 12, 22. So I'm taking a pause because oh, interesting. I wrote down pure crystalline form. So back to the dream. Now that I understand, I didn't know that Kathara could have a meaning of pure. So when I wrote that down, that was just channeled. And as I was looking into the different Kathara grids, I was getting messages from different ones people had posted online. So that's a cool connection. And when I was tuning back into that visual in my dream, I was being shown the grids and how a lot of the inorganic grids that are essentially overlaid on top of the organic grids in our essential hologram or holographic experience. When I was seeing that blob, it felt like the organic grid structure. And then the Kathara 12 sphere grid, which now that we know can mean purity. It's like this crystalline consciousness and angelic consciousness, or the original crystalline DNA in the angelic blueprint were 12 strands. So this number 12 seems to be very significant, and I won't get into this completely right now, but the 12 zodiacs, there's the 13th one that's been coming online, Ophiuchus or Ficus, I never say that correctly, which is all about the feminine, a lot about the feminine. And so, it's like a lot of this, the Sophia wisdom, or this Christo-Sophianic, I always associate the Sophia, or the feminine Christos, or feminine Christ, with like an iridescent frequency, pearlescent, iridescent, and they say, the golden Christed light. So it's like, the intermingling of this Christos Sophia, the Christ codes, and I came across the crystal rivers, or crystal river, which in other traditions, I believe in like Hindu traditions, they call it Amrita. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, my apologies. And it's this substance within us when we tune into a certain alignment. And what I was being shown is like this next octave of a kundalini. So you may be someone who has gone through a kundalini awakening, or maybe you are in the process of that, in the initial stages, and or multiple experiences. So I was being shown essentially like this next octave of kundalini awareness, awakening. And I know when I'm going through that sort of experience, I will see a flash. It's almost like lightning goes off in my mind's eye. And the other day I was tuning in, and I was meditating, and that I got that flash of light right in my mind's eye. It was so bright, and I have been feeling this like surge, almost like this electric surge, like electricity running through my body. And I've been feeling a call. It's funny, I was going to say to detoxify in ways, and not in like a neurotic way, but just, very naturally just feeling called to, like I really wanted to go out, and I bought a papaya, and I've been eating some of the papaya seeds. Anything I say, of course, like please do your own research, and I'm not saying that that is what you should do. I'm just sharing my own experiences, and there are certain phrases coming up in my mind for days, and each one that would come up, I kept being sent different, again, that perspective thing. It could be considered coincidental, or it could be a synchronistic alignment, right? It's like our choice, I suppose. I was actually swimming, and I kept hearing the phrase clearing Mesopotamia timelines, clearing Mesopotamian timelines. And I was seeing Babylon, Sumeria, like all that stuff. And so I also felt really called to like dive deeper into my ancestry. And I felt like I exhausted all my resources, like asking certain family members that I had access to. And then out of nowhere, after I set that intention, like, how can I bring this in deeper? My sister was like, oh, there's this like second cousin removed that reached out to me on Facebook, and he has a genealogy report. Do you want me to connect you with him? And I was like, sure. So now we're meeting next week. It's just, things just start to show up when you're ready, And so you may feel called to do something like that. Like I made a family tree on Ancestry.com the other day. It's free. The software isn't great. It's kind of frustrating to work with, but it's free. And it just felt really good to like make these different connections. And my goal was to go through at least 3 generations. And I did more than that. So it was pretty cool. And I was talking about soul roots. I would write down for years now, like different connections that I felt to other archetypes of myself, or if you want to call it other lifetimes, within Earth, other realms of Earth, and then more cosmic, and then even etheric. And if you want to go even into like other realms of existence that are hard to even explain on the Earth plane. So yeah, any of this could be coming up for someone. And when I was tuning into the visual from my dream, and I felt that like almost blob of the inorganic grid, and the connection to the Mesopotamia timelines, my friend, who I hadn't spoken to in a little while, just like sent me this video. It was like that day about, it was a Billy Carson video on the Daily Motivation YouTube channel. And he was talking about Sumeria, Mesopotamia, and some of these hidden biblical and sacred texts that, have been essentially disjointed and hidden and scattered to confuse people. And I messaged my friend back, and I was like, oh, you have no idea how great this timing is. Like, thank you for sending this to me. And I think I had seen that video a long time ago, but it was just very confirming. And so, yeah, you may feel like some of these ancestral patterns that are coming up, or that you've been working through. Whenever I see dragonflies, for me personally, it's always like karmic loops or karmic cycles, like are pretty deep ones, are being, repatterned. So you may be working with that yourself, listening to subliminals, affirmations, hemi-syncing. I didn't mean to say that. So maybe the Sphinx is relevant. Hemi-syncing, like working with syncing the right and left hemispheres of the brain. I'm seeing the corpus callosum in the center of the brain, and utilizing visuals to almost like make a figure 8. You can use like golden light, white golden light. The Ormus gold that I talk about a lot, I think that's such a beautiful way. Like when I didn't have access to Ormus gold, I would work with like almost the etheric template of it and invite it in. It always came as like a white golden light. And in Atlantean times, I believe they called that the Mahatma energy. And there's a lot of beings in the Melchizedek order that say the Mahatma energy was actually like kind of banned from the planet for a long time because it was misused. So please use it responsibly. But yeah, it always felt connected to me to Ormus gold in the etheric template. So if you're someone who wants to work with this energy, and maybe right now you cannot afford Ormus gold, or you don't want to put anything in your body, whatever it is, feel free to try and work with the etheric template. And if you're already doing that, this is just a confirmation for you. But I do have an affiliate link with them. So if you are interested in working with Ormus gold from like a trusted source, their link, I think there's like a discount you get if you use my code. I'm new to this, so yeah. Anyway, visualizing that and like a figure 8 connecting. Ooh, there are the parrots. The right and the left hemispheres of the brain. I loved working with that, and the Lemurian egg kept coming through, which the Lemurian egg of light was a card in this oracle deck I used to have a while ago. I think I gave it to someone. And yeah, you can like envision yourself in an egg of light, or really anything that makes you feel safe. The egg to me, is very like connected to that Sophianic, Sophia, mother archetype, mother wisdom, the womb, safety, cleansing and clearing the womb. You can utilize that to like do womb clearing in your family lineages if you're not already attuned to this, where you can just imagine and saying like thank you to all the different wombs in your lineages for giving birth, and imagining these Mahatma or etheric aspect of the white golden ormus flowing through. These are just some different practices that I've used over time. I've been thinking about maybe making a recording, like a womb clearing, collective womb clearing astral journey. If you guys are interested in that, please feel free to let me know. And even if you're, it doesn't matter what gender you are, because everyone that I know of comes from a womb. And if you feel like you're a walk-in, actually, and you don't feel like you were birthed through a womb, technically speaking, your physical vessel that you entered into still was. So, most likely. So, yeah, it can apply to all types of soul experiences. Okay, let's see. Working with your vagus nerve could be very helpful right now. I actually, personally, for me, sometimes I listen to, they have like vagus nerve sound healings, like on YouTube, like sound bowls or just different frequencies attuned to regulate the vagus nerve. And that can really help with like the parasympathetic nervous system, and really balancing out that fear, fight, flight, freeze responses, so that we can continue holding space and making, new patterns in our neural pathways and new decisions from a more grounded, calm place. And it all starts, in the physical body and feeling safe. So there's breath techniques you can use. And again, if you're already someone who's attuned to all of this, you can just take it as a confirmation that maybe you're going to start sharing this more, or feel free to comment anything that works for you and share with others. Okay, let's see. Rainbow fluorite kept coming up as well. So working with rainbow fluorite in some way, even if it's just like looking at the metaphysical properties or envisioning a rainbow fluorite light stream. You may be seeing like iridescent or heliotalic, more pastel, rainbow light coming from like your light sources in your house or from the sun. That could be something that's coming up for you. Oh, hair shedding. I've noticed that my hair has been shedding, and normally if I get a haircut, it will stop the shedding, but it has not. Like I feel like I'm shedding so much more than I usually do. And it feels very connected to this like next octave of the Kundalini embodiment. Like there's, the whole idea of the snake and shedding. So yeah, that could be where your skin might be peeling. There could just be like snake or reptile like things that are like reflected on you right now. Like maybe you're like interacting more with lizards or something, or there's lizards where you live. Like I just met an axolotl. I've never even heard of one in my life, and they're super cool actually. yeah, there's something here about that. Frogs, amphibious beings. You may feel connected to, there's a star system, Anka. It's said to be represented by amphibious beings, and that it's sort of like this, almost like crystalline, pure crystalline, like etheric, like, even though it's like a physical place, it's so close to like what people will call like source or pure crystalline energy. So that could be coming through as like a remembrance for you, even if it's archetypal, like some sort of what we call crystalline or angelic consciousness coming through. Let's see. Also, I was outside the other day, speaking of lizards, and I was meditating by a pool in the sun. Here's another golden dragonfly flying over my head, and I felt, if you want to call it, like a divine masculine counterpart energy coming through, and it felt like it was for myself and the collective that I feel connected to. Now I'm walking by a snake plant. Yeah, like snakes, all this stuff is coming up. Anyway, and I felt that energy like a wave rush over me, and so I asked, like, okay, what's going on? Do you hear all that, the birds talking? So there might be some sort of like conversation coming up, or I'm hearing the song in my head, Turn Around. I forget who sings the song. It's an older song. Turn around. Bright Eyes, I think it's called. Anyway, so I was closing my eyes, funny enough. I'm just realizing this. And when I opened my eyes and I asked, like, what's the message? Like, is something coming in? Like, what do you want me to know? This lizard was just running, like, full speed towards me. Like, right almost up to my feet. And then it, like, kept running. So, yeah, to me, that obviously feels like... And that's not, like, something that happens all the time. Like, it just... And I was... I think I was on like the 8th floor of a building. It's not like I was just like outside walking in the grass. Yeah, and this lizard just like, it was like perfect timing. Like as soon as I asked the question, I heard open your eyes, and I opened my eyes and the lizard was just darting at me. So someone or something could be coming towards you. And I know a lot of people say that in some of these things, so please only, take that if it feels right to you. Blue jays could be significant. I think a blue jay just flew over my head. I'm not sure if it was a blue jay, but it looked like one. And now an orange butterfly. Yeah, that's sacral energy. That's really coming through like that. And it's not necessarily about like, this could be like an internal aspect as well, like running towards yourself, like empowering yourself. And of course, the more, it's like perpetual, the more we do that, the more externally things show up. At least in ways we may not be expecting. And I was talking about the air element and having new perspectives. So yeah, that all feels connected. There was something else coming through. Oh, and all day today, I've been hearing the song from Katy Perry. Oh my God, yeah, okay, Dark Horse, I think it's called. And she says something like, coming at me like a dark horse. Yeah, I'm putting all this together now as I'm tuning in. And she says something about like, make me your Aphrodite. And I just put a community post today because I was feeling the essence of Aphrodite, or, these different like god and goddess archetypes. I've realized, and maybe you have too, like different cultural names for similar archetypes. Like, the Roman goddess, I believe Aurora, is the goddess of Venus, or Aphrodite in Greek. And also Athena, I felt coming through too, the goddess of, I believe, like war and wisdom. And I saw an owl, which always connects me back to Athena. So yeah, like that masculine Mars energy, and then that like Venusian feminine goddess archetype energy. Also these like Venusian spheres connected to like in anthroposophy, they talk about the 7 higher heavens or the Venusian spheres. So it feels like the clearing of these, ancestral lineage, Mesopotamia lines, and, the fall of Babylon, like all of these different ancient, rooted, inorganic grid structures, within and without, are really being realized, and the awareness is really coming through. So it feels like these higher realms, the Venusian spheres, the reconciling of internal, conflict, again, that Mars energy, is really bringing in these like heliotalic streams or embodiment. There's a plane overhead. I don't know if you could hear that. So, and of course, these are all, this is all a process, and everyone is in their own place in connection to this, like back to that spiral energy. There's honestly so much information coming through that I have been looking into, and I'd love to like hear anything that anyone here wants to share. So any specificities or deeper dives. But for now, I'm just continuing to kind of bring through these messages like as they come in, and over time I plan to sort of zoom in and focus on specifics, I suppose. Okay, so I think I'm actually going to close it out here. I just saw 4200 on the timer. I do plan on doing an extended overflow on Patreon, where I will probably go a bit deeper into some of these Kathara grid perspectives, and some of the things that came up in conjunction with the Mesopotamia clearing timelines. And the video that my friend sent me, there was a connection through cuneiforms and something that actually came through my channel years ago and is now coming up again, about like some of the hidden texts and secret texts that have kind of been like disjointed. So I'll probably go more into that. I wanted to see if there was one more thing. Yeah, the grid stuff, the grid work. I'll probably do some sort of like collective grid clearing at some point. I'm supposed to be going to Belgium in a few weeks, and the same phrase kept coming up over and over again, like for like a week straight. Allegedly there's these like dark castles in Belgium, like these darker agendas that were going on in castles in Belgium. I kept asking, like, why am I being pulled to Belgium? I think there's like multiple different reasons, but that kept coming up, and then now I'm connecting the dots. And I just saw another golden dragonfly where I had a dream, with the grids and, the purified crystalline Kathara shape and of the grid, the organic grids, and then, some of these more blob type. Anyway, so thank you again for listening, and that's all for now.